Hello, welcome to UFT Interview Questions. By watching this video, you can get overall idea on UFT Tool. First, what is UFT? Unified Functional Testing. It is a functional and regression test tool from HP. It is a functional and regression test tool, but it also supports little bit performance testing, little bit reliability testing. But basically UFT is functional and regression test tool. Next, what is the difference between QTP and UFT? QTP, Quick Test Professional. UFT, Unified Functional Testing. UFT is an advanced version of QTP. UFT equal to QTP plus service tools. QTP supports GUI testing only, but UFT supports API testing and GUI testing. Next, explain about the UFT product. UFT also software. It is test tool, but it is also software. UFT developed in .NET technology, VC++.NET. It is one-tier application, or you can say desktop application. It doesn't have any database. Then how it stores its resources? It stores its resources using file format on hard disk. What are the UFT resources? Shared object repository file, function library file, environment variables file, etc. Next, UFT is an object-based test tool. Based on front-end objects only, it performs test operations. Next, UFT has an integrated VBScript engine to apply programming logic to our tests. Next, VBScript has MS Access database engine for database operations. Next, what are the types of UFT license? UFT has two types of license. One is seat license, another is concurrent license. Next, does UFT support UNIX operating environment? No, it doesn't support UNIX operating environment. Only Windows operating environment. Next, another tools from same vendor, HP vendor, LoadRunner. LoadRunner has two types of license, LoadRunner for Unix, LoadRunner for Windows. Next, ALM. ALM has two types of license, ALM for Windows and ALM for Unix. But UFT has Windows license only. UFT supports Windows operating environment only. Next, how UFT supports database testing? Using MS Access database engine integrated and VBScript database objects, database connection object, database record set object and database command object. UFT supports database testing. Using MS Access database engine and VBScript database objects, UFT supports database testing. Next, what is add-in? Add-in means, general term add-in means an additional component. UFT point of view, what is add-in? Environment compatible files, environment compatible software. Suppose if you want to test Java application, Java add-in required, .NET application, .NET add-in required, SAP application, SAP add-in required. Add-in means environment compatible software. Next, what type of add-ins available for UFT? See, in UFT, we can find two categories of add-ins. First one, internal add-ins with basic license. 4 internal add-ins: Standard Windows, ActiveX, Visual Basic, and Web. That standard Windows add-in not visible in add-in manager, that is built-in add-in. Next, external add-ins, another category, external add-ins. Java add-in, .NET for Windows Forms, .NET for Web Forms. Next, WPF, Windows Presentation Foundation. Next, SAP for GUI, SAP for Web, TE, Terminal Emulators for Mainframes applications, PeopleSoft, Cbell, Oracle. Next, Stingray, Delphi, Silverlight, Web Services, etc. Next, what is UFT test process? UFT test process has 6 phases. First one, test planning. Next, generating basic tests. Next, enhancing tests. Next, running and debugging tests. Next, analyzing test results. Last one, reporting defects. What are the important tasks in test planning phase of UFT test process? First one, get environment details from development team and select appropriate add-ins. Already we discussed, basically UFT is object-based test tool based on front-end objects only. It supports test operations. First, get environment details from development team and select appropriate add-ins. Next, select test cases for automation. Before that, analyze the AUT in terms of objects identification. Next, select test cases for automation. Next, tool settings configuration and globalize. Next, last one, optional task but important task, automation framework implementation. See, these are the important tasks in test planning phase of UFT test process. Next, how to enhance tests in UFT. Using UFT tool features like checkpoints, transaction points, synchronization points, data table, etc. and using VBScript features like flow control statements, functions, automation objects, etc. we can enhance tests. Next, how to run or execute tests in UFT. How to run or execute tests in UFT. Using run command, run command, we can execute single tests. Using test batch runner tool, we can execute test batches. Next, how to debug tests in UFT. Using debug commands, example step into, step out, step over, etc. and breakpoints, we can debug tests. Using VBScript debug commands and breakpoints, we can debug tests. Next, how to define test results in UFT. Using reporter utility object, we can define test results. Using reporter utility object, we can define test result in UFT. First of all, why user need to define test results? See, generally UFT provides test result for every test iteration. If we use UFT tool features like checkpoints, output values, transaction points, etc. See, generally UFT provides test results for every test iteration. If we use UFT tool features, if we use our own logic, for example VBScript features, then we need to define test result. For example, if we write if x greater than y, then do something else, do something, and if. VBScript logic. UFT doesn't know about VBScript logic. UFT doesn't know about user own logic. Then we need to define test result. When we need to define test results? Whenever we use VBScript features, means our own logic, then we need to define test result. How to define test result? Using reporter utility object. Next, what is object repository? It is a storage place for storing test objects information. What is recording? It is a process of generating steps for every user operation on AUT. AUT stands for application under test, and simultaneously storing objects information into object repository. See once again, what is recording? Test recording. It is a process of generating steps or statements for every user operation on AUT, simultaneously storing objects information into object repository. Next, what is descriptive programming? Entering or providing objects information directly into statements or steps is called descriptive programming or programmatic descriptions. What are the types of descriptive programming? See, in UFT descriptive programming, two types. One is static programming, another is dynamic programming. What is dynamic descriptive programming? Creating description objects and generating statements using description objects is called dynamic descriptive programming. Creating description objects and generating tests using description objects is called dynamic descriptive programming. What is step generator? It is UFT tool feature. It is a library of functions and utility objects used to generate recordable and non-recordable steps. Recordable steps, okay. What is non-recordable step? See, operations on disabled objects are irregular operations. operations on disabled objects are irregular operations. What is irregular operation? Suppose entering entering a value into edit box, that is regular operation. Capturing value from edit box, that is irregular operation. Next, what is data table? It is an integrated spreadsheet for data related operations. It is an integrated spreadsheet for data related operations. See, UFT attach one data table for every test. Suppose if we create 100 tests in our project, UFT attach 100 data tables. Next, data table located in two areas. One is in UFT Tool main window. Here name is design time data table. Another area, UFT Tool result window. Their name is runtime data table. Runtime data table nothing but carbon copy of design time data table. Next, usage of data table. First, enter test data directly into data table and connect to the test. Second one, import test data from external files and connect to the test. Next, third one, import test data from databases, any database, and connect to the test. Next, what is parameterization? Replacing constant values with parameters. Replacing constant values with parameters. Say, otherwise you can say passing parameters instead of constant values. Suppose user ID, ABCD, password, XYZ. Those are constant values. Instead of those constant values, you can pass variables as parameters. Next, what is data-driven testing? See, repeat test execution using multiple sets of test data. See, testing the same functionality using multiple sets of test data. Testing the same functionality using multiple sets of test data. Why data-driven testing? Suppose for one input my application is responding fine. User ID, ABCD, password, XYZ. My application working fine. Login operation is working fine. Then why we need to test with multiple inputs, multiple user IDs and passwords? See, for positive and negative testing. Primary purpose of data-driven testing is positive and negative testing. Suppose for valid inputs my application is responding fine. What about handling invalid inputs? It has to accept valid inputs and prevent invalid inputs. Next, what is checkpoint? What is checkpoint? It is tool feature, UFT tool feature. It is a verification point, takes expected result from the user means tester, and compares with the actual results during execution and provides test result. Don't confuse, here I used three results. Expected result, actual result, test result. After comparing expected with actual, then pass or fail like test result. It is a verification point, takes expected result from the user and compares with the actual results during execution, then provides test result. Say we have 12 checkpoints in UFT. Every checkpoint is unique. Suppose standard checkpoint purpose is different. Next, page checkpoint purpose is different. Next, accessibility checkpoint purpose is different. Every checkpoint is unique, but this is generic definition. Next, What is output value? It is also UFT tool feature. It captures output during execution and stores into runtime data table. Every output value is unique. Next, what is the purpose of inserting transaction points? See, we insert transaction points for measuring test transaction time. We can measure entire test transaction time or part of the test transaction time. Suppose login functionality. After entering valid username and password, then login is working or not, that is functional test. For example, how much time that login operation is taking for execution, that is performance test. This inserting transaction points feature is related to performance testing. Already I told, basically UFT is functional and regression test tool, but it supports little bit performance testing, not like load runner, 1000 users, 10,000 users, like only per user. Using transaction points start and end, we can measure test transaction time or part of the test transaction time. It is UFT tool feature. VBScript feature also there for measuring test transaction time, that is timer function. Timer, built-in function of VBScript. Next, how to work with files in UFT. Say, using VBScript file system object and text stream object, we can work with files. Next, using UFT tool feature data table also, we can conduct some file system operations, but using file system object and text stream object, we can conduct all types of file system operations. Next, how to work with Excel files. Using Excel application object, using VBScript Excel application object, we can conduct Excel file operations. Next, what is object identification configuration? Configuring objects using some important properties is called object identification configuration. UFT has default configurations for every environment. If that default configuration is not sufficient for our project, then we can configure some more. Next, what is virtual object configuration? It is a process of making an area or user defined object as virtual object. Say, suppose in our application one object is there, UFT is not recognizing that object even though we load appropriate add-ins. That time we can make that area as object. If any functionality is there, it may work, may not work. It is not a guarantee feature. It may work, may not work. It is a process of making an area or user defined object as virtual object. Thank you.